Hey guys, Soberoni of G&A Reviews here with part 2 of my Prisma Codes event guide. This guide is going to cover everything past the Kuro raid, so if you haven't beaten Kuro and haven't gotten your free copy of her, then go check out my part 1 guide that'll cover everything about the event. But for those of you who have, this is going to cover everything about the event that comes out after August 28th at 9 PM Pacific time. That's when all the new nodes are going to unlock, as well as the EX raids and the challenge quests, and that's what this guide is going to cover. Everything else about the event is going to be the same. There's no new event shop, no new gacha or anything like that. Just gonna go over some new raids and new farming nodes. So let's get started right away. The first thing you're going to notice about part 2 is that all the time-locked missions are going to be available now. So as of August 28th at 9 PM Pacific, all the missions will become available to complete. These new missions are still going to be very simple and self-explanatory. Things like kill a certain amount of enemies, complete a certain amount of missions, things that you're going to do in the course of playing anyway, so they're not too difficult. There's really just a couple of things I wanted to say about this, namely that all your mission progress is going to be retroactive. So for example, if a new mission opens up with part 2 that says kill 50 casters, for example, and you've already killed 50 casters in part 1, then that progress still counts. So you're never going to have to do anything over again. So you'll find that you might have some missions already done. I also want to mention, if you're still in the process of completing missions and you have missions that are like kill a certain type of enemy, like a dragon enemy or a neutral enemy, and you don't know where to find those, then refer to part 1. In my part 1 guide, I cover that in more detail. And finally, I just want to touch on how to get NP5 Kuro. So your first copy of Kuro is going to be a reward after you beat the part 1 raid against Kuro. If you want to get the other 4 copies, those are going to come from some new missions. So the missions you're going to want to complete in order to get NP5 Kuro are mission number 99, which is clear 90 missions. Mission number 80, which is to clear all rank EX quests. Mission number 66, which is to defeat 20 fake servants with the caster class. And mission number 13, which is to defeat Testament, who is the final raid boss of the EX quest. So when those 4 missions are complete, you'll have your NP5 Kuro. And that's something that you should definitely prioritize doing. So with the missions out of the way, let's talk about farming for these shop items. Every area is going to have a brand new EX quest for you to farm. Obviously, the EX quests are going to be harder than the rank A quests in that area, so plan accordingly. These new EX quests are also going to have much higher drop rates, especially for the shop currency. So these are going to be the quests that you want to farm for all these shop currencies. And now is the best time to use your apples, because this is going to be the quests that have the highest amount of drops, and with apples you can clear out the shop very quickly. So here are going to be the definitive best spots to farm. If you're farming lions, you're going to want to farm them in the Kingdom of Dead bookshelves, rank EX. This quest is going to have all caster enemies, and there's going to be a 100,000 HP demon and a 140,000 HP Paracelsus at the end. So your recommended choices for this are Maeve, of course, because she's going to do incredible amounts of damage, but you can also bring Drake, Santa Alter, Mordred, Marie, or Martha. If you have Maeve, I highly recommend it because she's going to be able to kill Paracelsus in a single hit. Next up, if you're going to farm books, you're going to want to farm those in the Kingdom of Sunflower and Honey, rank EX. That area is going to have all saber enemies with a 150,000 HP Spriggan and a 250,000 HP Fergus. And this is going to be where you're going to want to use Kuro to help you farm. Kuro has a massive bonus thanks to this event, and of course she's an archer fighting against a bunch of sabers. So I highly recommend using Kuro here. You can also use Archer Arturia, Nobu, Uriel since you're fighting males, and Summer, Anne, and Mary. And finally, when you're farming for pudding, you're going to want to farm that in the Land of Sweets, rank EX. That area is going to have all Berserker Golems with a Caster Ifrit and a Caster Mephistopheles. Both of them are going to have 117,000 HP, but this is going to be very, very easy, again, if you bring Maeve or Drake to deal with those casters. I highly recommend also bringing Marie, Martha, Santa Alter, or Mordred. There's no reason to not bring riders with you since Berserkers are also going to be weak to riders. And that covers the best spots for farming currencies. Let's talk about the best spots for farming Ascension materials. So the Ascension material farming in part 2 is going to be a lot better than part 1. Everything has much higher drop rates in the rank EX quest, including Ascension materials. All this information comes courtesy of Lord Ashura. I'll drop a link to his guide in the description below, so make sure you check that out and show him some love. He goes into incredible detail, so I highly recommend checking it out. I'm going to cover the Ascension mats that are worth farming, aka the Ascension materials that have a higher drop rate in the event than they have outside of the event. So I'm not going to cover any of the materials that have a higher drop rate, for example in Camelot or during the daily quest. So there's mainly 4 things you're going to want to farm. The first is going to be octuplet crystals that drop in the Kingdom of Candy rank EX. They have a 48% drop rate there, so very high. Next up, you have dragon scales. They are going to drop in the Kingdom of Dragons rank EX. They have a 15% drop rate, again much higher than it does outside of the event. Next up, we have demon hearts, which you're going to want to farm in the Kingdom of Dead bookshelves rank EX. Those are going to have a 15% drop rate. And then finally, and probably most famously, are going to be the Phoenix Plumes. Phoenix Plumes can be farmed in the Kingdom of Stars and Crystals, rank EX. They have a ridiculous 90% drop rate. That's by far the best value, since the rate outside of the event is only 17% at the Saber 30 AP daily. So you're going to go from a 17% drop rate to a 90% drop rate if you farm them in the Kingdom of Stars and Crystals rank EX. I highly recommend, if you're farming, to farm this node. You're not going to get any better value for Ascension materials than right here. You're basically almost going to get a feather every single time you run this node. So those are going to be the places that you want to farm your Ascension materials at. Let's talk about the most engaging part of this part of the event, the raids. The raids are going to follow the exact same structure as they had in part 1. The same exact rules apply. That means the raids are going to be local, not global. Only the damage you do matters. They're going to cost 10 AP, no BP. You're going to have the same bonus servants with the same bonus craft essences as well. They only work on females. Bosses are going to have multiple stages depending on how much damage you do to them. And the raid bosses are either going to be weak to Arts or Buster. Again, the exact same as part 1. So let's cover all the raid bosses individually. First up, we have the Phantom of the Opera. He has a total HP of 3 million, and he's going to be weak to Arts cards. In stage 1, he's going to be accompanied by 2 golems, each with 71,000 HP, and he's going to have 350,000 HP. After you do a certain amount of damage, you'll move on to stage 2, where both golems will have 75,000 HP, and he will have 450,000 HP. In addition, he's going to have a passive that increases his critical hit damage. And then after you do enough damage there, he's going to finally move into stage 3, where each of the golems is going to have 77,000 HP and he will have 700,000 HP. He will also have an ability that at the start of the battle, he's going to randomly charm one of your allies. So he's going to have a very high HP pool, but other than that, it's nothing too crazy, nothing out of the ordinary. You're basically going to want to bring a very strong caster with you, and you're definitely going to need a craft essence that boosts your arts damage here because his HP is just too ridiculously high. The best servant you could bring with you to this fight is going to be Ilya, because she has the 100% damage bonus. Even though she is Buster, she's going to do a crazy amount of damage. You can also bring Helena and Nursery Rhyme. They're going to do incredible amounts of damage because they both have Arts Noble Phantasms and they have an 80% buff for the event. You can also bring Da Vinci. She's going to do a lot of damage as well. And if you're free to play, I highly recommend bringing Medea. She can do tremendous amounts of damage and she can spam her Noble Phantasm. So even at 700,000 HP, Phantom of the Opera should go down pretty quickly to her. And servants like Tamamo, Mosh, John, and Irisfield are just going to help keep you alive if the battle drags on. So once you're done with Phantom of the Opera, your next raid is going to be against Blackbeard. Blackbeard is going to have 3 million HP and he's going to be weak to Busters. In addition, he's going to be a Berserker enemy instead of a Rider. In stage 1, he is going to have 320,000 HP and he's going to be assisted by 2 Rainbow Wyverns with 56,000 HP, and they're going to be Lancers. In stage 2, he's going to have 470,000 HP, and the Rainbow Wyverns are going to have 58,000 HP. In addition, he's going to have a passive attack buff against males. Finally, after doing a certain amount of damage, you'll move on to stage 3, where he has 710,000 HP and the Wyverns have 60,000. In addition, he's going to have a buff to his NP strength. So Blackbeard's going to be more offensive than Phantom of the Opera. Thankfully, because he's a berserker, he's weak to everybody. So of course, Ilya, perfect choice here. She's going to do ridiculous damage thanks to all the event buffs. You can probably even one-shot him with enough buffing. You can also bring Maeve because of the anti-mail and the event buff. Again, with enough buffing, she might even be able to one-shot him. Other great choices include Ruler Martha, Ibaraki, Raiko, and of course, Jolter for that incredibly high burst damage. But really, you can bring with you any Buster female, and they should be able to take care of this rather easily. Don't be intimidated by his high amounts of HP. Because he's a berserker, he's going to take a lot of damage. And once you're done with Blackbeard, the next raid is going to be against Gilles de Rais Caster. He is going to have 4 million HP and be weak to arts cards. In your first fight against him, he's going to have 500,000 HP and be assisted by 2 magical books with 56,000 HP. In stage 2, he is going to have 600,000 HP, and the magical books are going to have 64,000 HP. He's also going to have a passive that increases debuff success rate. And then finally in stage 3, the 2 books will have 70,000 HP and he will have 900,000 HP. And in addition, at the start of the battle, he's going to inflict terror on all of your allies. If you're not familiar with that, it's basically a status ailment that randomly stuns you once, randomly throughout 5 turns. So it's unpredictable and it's very RNG based. Of course, the high HP is going to be the most intimidating thing about him. I highly suggest bringing Mordred Rider with you, and if you don't have her, hopefully you have a friend that has her. Her spammable Noble Phantasm is going to make this fight a lot easier. Otherwise, you're going to want to stick with Maeve yet again, because even if she is Buster, she does incredible amounts of damage to male casters. In addition, Kuro and Archer Arturia are not bad choices here, because they'll do arts damage. And you're definitely going to want a defensive support here to keep you alive, because this fight is going to go on for a while. So make sure you have Mosh, Jean, Media Lily, or even Nightingale there to provide healing. The best way to counter that terror that he inflicts on everyone in stage 3 is to Noble Phantasm immediately with Media Lily to remove that debuff. After dealing with Gilles de Rais, next up is Diarmid. Diarmid is going to have 4 million HP and he's going to be weak to Buster cards. At stage 1, he's going to have 480,000 HP and be assisted by 2 Reindeer Men with 70,000 HP each. All of them will be Lancers. In stage 2, he's going to have 590,000 HP and the Reindeers will have 73,000 HP. And finally, in stage 3, he is going to have 930,000 HP, while the Reindeers have 75,000 HP. In addition, he's going to inflict attack down to all females. And this is going to be a fight that you absolutely need a strong saber for. Unfortunately, there are no single target Buster female sabers out yet, but your best choice to go with here is going to be Altera, Mordred, Saber, or Saber Alter. However, I also highly recommend bringing Ibaraki because she is single target and will do super effective damage to him, so she's going to be able to do a lot more damage to Diarmid than most of your sabers will. Raiko is another good substitution if you don't have a really strong AoE saber, and of course so is Jolter as always. Finally, the last raid is going to be against Testament. She has 7.5 million total HP and is going to be weak to arts cards. In stage 1, she is going to have 650,000 HP and be joined by 2 magical sticks, one with 50,000 HP and one with 68,000. After doing a certain amount of damage, she's going to move on to stage 2, where she's going to have 800,000 HP, one magical stick will have 53,000 HP and the other will have 70,000. Then she'll move on to stage 3, in which one magical stick will have 66,000, one will have 88,000, and she will have 950,000. In addition, she's going to have HP recovery down on one of your allies at random. And then finally on stage 4, she's going to have 1,350,000 HP, and the magical sticks are going to have 80,000 and 107,000 HP. She will also start the battle with full NP gauge, so she will Noble Phantasm immediately. This is going to be tough just because of the sheer amount of HP that Testament has, but thankfully she is a caster, and one of the sticks is a Berserker, which means that riders are going to run roughshod all over her. And when it comes to riders running roughshod all over the event, you know it has to be all about Maeve. Even though she's weak to arts, Maeve is still going to do a ton of damage here. However, Summer Mordred is also a fantastic choice here. She'll take care of both magical sticks as well. If you don't have either of them, then make sure you use Santa Altar or Drake. Both of them are excellent choices here as well, even if they're not arts based. And even though she's not a rider, Kuro can do some good damage here because of the bonus from the event and the weakness to arts on Testament's part, so she's not too shabby to bring along either. And because the battle is going to be so crazy long, make sure you bring Mosh, Jean, Iris Veil, or Media Lily to help keep you alive. And once you beat Testament, you'll be done with the entire event, and hopefully will unlock the last Kuro that you need to NP5 her. And I know I mentioned a lot of gold servants, so for those of you who are more free to play or not that lucky, I'm going to mention some free-to-play servants that you might want to bring with you. First and foremost, Kiyohime is essential. I can't stress enough how strong she is for this event. She's basically going to manhandle anyone who's weak to Buster, so she can take down both Blackbeard and Deermud very easily. In addition, you're going to want to bring Ushi along with you to take care of Testament and Giles de Rey. And for dealing with Phantom of the Opera, make sure you bring Medea. So those are going to be the best free-to-play options you could bring along with you. Serenity and 100 Face Hassan are also pretty good options if you want some extra firepower against servants that are weak to arts. So with all the raids out of the way, there's only one thing left to cover, and that is the challenge quest. So last but not least, after you complete the EX quests and the EX raids, you're going to be presented with the option to do a challenge quest. The reward for the challenge quest isn't all that amazing. It's 5 spirit roots as well as a bunch of gold monuments, but I do recommend doing the challenge quest just for the fun of it and to test yourself. It's actually kind of difficult. So this challenge quest is going to pit you against 3 waves, and you're going to be facing the Prisma family. The first wave is going to consist of Child, Gil, and Hercules. The second wave is going to be Emiya Assassin and Iris Veil, and then the final wave is going to be Emiya and Ilya. So you're going to immediately notice that there's a very diverse mix of classes here, so you're going to have to mix it up too. The servants I recommend for this quest are going to be Tamamo Lancer, Uriel, Orion, and Maeve. Mostly for the male enemies. Even though Ilya is going to be the final boss, a lot of these enemies are males, and they're going to do a lot of damage against them. For dealing with Ilya herself, I recommend bringing Drake, Santa Altar, Maeve, Jolter, or Summer Mordred. You're also going to want to bring some defense and utility, so make sure you have Jean, Hans, Tamamo, Mosh, Steno, or Waver. And if you're free to play, then I highly recommend again bringing Kiyohime, Ushi, and Uriel as your main damage dealers. Uriel is going to provide that anti-mail, while Ushi and Kyo can torch everyone else, especially Ilya. You're also going to want to bring Mosh for defense and a support Waver or Hans. So let's tackle the strategy for each wave one at a time. In wave 1, you're going to want to kill Herc ASAP with your Noble Phantasm. I recommend using some of Kaleidoscope or Imaginary Element so you can get that NP off right away. Then you're going to want to try to stun lock Gilgamesh with Waver, Steno, or Uriel, or you can try to tank his damage with Jean or Mosh. You're basically going to want to use Kid Gil to try and build up your Noble Phantasm before you kill him. That way when you get to wave 2, you can Noble Phantasm immediately. Gil isn't too much of a threat so long as you can stop him from Noble Phantasming or just tank up with Mosh. So in the second wave, hopefully you've built up your NP enough that you can NP almost immediately, if not immediately. And you're going to want to target Emiya with your Noble Phantasm. Reason why is Iris Veil poses 0 threat. Focus everything on Emiya. His crits can be very bad news, so you're going to want to get him out of the way quickly. Once he's gone, Iris Veil's Noble Phantasm won't do much of anything on its own, and just like with Kid Gil, you're going to want to use her to build up your NP gauge before you head into the final wave. Finally, once you head into that final wave, focus Emiya, because if he Noble Phantasms, it can hurt your entire team. Plus, he can pierce through defense, making Mosh less useful, and you're going to want to watch for his crits. So overall, he's just too much of a threat to ignore. You're going to want to kill him right away. Then that just leaves Ilya. Ilya is going to have a lot of HP, but it's not too difficult to take her down with Drake, Santa Altar, Maeve, Jolter, or Summer Mordred. You're just going to want to whittle down her HP little by little and stun lock her as well, or tank it up with Mosh. Overall, this challenge quest is slightly challenging, but it's not really anything you can't handle. And that about wraps up everything I have to say about part 2 of this event. Not difficult at all, it's very easy. Just focus on getting your Kuro to NP5 and then doing the raids and farming the shop and Ascension materials. The challenge event isn't too difficult so long as you remember the key to beating it is to make sure you head into each wave with your Noble Phantasm ready to fire, and you bring the appropriate servants. Anti-mail is extremely good for the challenge quest. And I hope that this guide really did help you guys. If it did, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. That way you can definitely be prepared for Nero Fest, which is going to be 100 million times harder than this challenge quest. The guide for that will be coming out in the near future. And if you haven't already, do follow us on Twitter, join the party over our Discord, and follow us on Twitch. And I will see you guys all in the next Servant Spotlight or event guide. Soberoni signing out. Later.